This video is a presentation of a model skyscraper that I designed. It takes from elements of sustainability, modern architecture, and biophilic design. It includes several outdoor rooftop spaces that can be used for a wide range of functions, allowing the building to have a customizable vibe from a multitude of options. My first inspiration for the model came to me in my science classroom. It was after class and I was playing around with one of the toys in the room, a snake-like object with triangular turnable pieces.
Messing around with it, I created the shape shown, and in standing it up, the idea came into my head. After taking several photos and a video of the toy, I went back to my dorm room and sketched the first draft of the model on my iPad. I like the shape because of its connectivity, the spiraling of the shapes traveling upwards, as well as the weightlessness that the concept evokes, the apparent lack of structural support, with enough still being there to keep the building up. The slanted triangular sides going up and down gave me inspiration for slanted windows on each of the floors at 60-degree angles, one slanted up and one slanted down.
This created a bit of a question about how to split the floors, but eventually, in creating the first draft of the model, I unintentionally solved this issue. My plan for the first model was to 3D print individual layers and glue them together after painting them to show the even divide between the floors. In doing so through a rendering of the model on Tinkercad, a software that I had frequently used in my middle school days for 3D printing, I got an idea of what the pieces looked like and how they stacked. One of the fundamental ideas of the model that I was very proud of was the opportunity for outdoor spaces in an urban setting. The spiraling nature of the design created several triangular level spaces that I thought could be used for a variety of functions, depending on the purpose of the building.
The spaces could be used for hotel-related activities, such as an infinity pool and rooftop bar, a large space where guests could come to relax in heated pools high above the city and enjoy a drink with a view. They could be outdoor dining for restaurants and events, with large outdoor parties and people enjoying wonderfully cooked meals in the open air. The spaces could be used for agriculture, large areas for outdoor gardens that employed the spiral aspect of the building to harness methods of rainwater collection and open sunlight to grow crops in an urban environment. The spaces could even be used for urban parks, reducing the space needed as nature would be above the city itself, with a building below and above it, but the space still being in the fresh air.
I really loved the ideas of what the spaces could be used for, the variety of options that would be available. Brainstorming these possibilities was one of my favorite parts of this process. After successfully printing off all the pieces, I painted and glued them together and finished the first draft of the model.
The original draft was small, about 2 inches by 2 inches by 10 inches, with indents in a few places for external elevator shafts.
I showed the model to Bill Hanley, an architect with whom I had been interning, and he recommended getting rid of the external elevators and shifting to a central shaft to conserve space and avoid taking away from the smooth geometry of the structure. I began taking notes and planning for my second draft of the model with a few changes in mind. With inspiration from both my mentor and a building I discovered while researching for an essay about architecture, I began planning out the second draft of my model.
I got rid of the external elevators and created spaces in between the floors of the building, then stacked them so I could print the new model in large pieces to cut down on the time it took to assemble. After I finished printing the pieces, gluing the model together, and painting it, I began on the second revision to the model, which was inspired by the Senko headquarters building concept in Istanbul.
The concept used strips of plant life inside and outside of the building to improve air quality and regulate temperature by battling solar radiation, which really inspired me. I loved the sustainable aspect of the design while also introducing plant life in an urban environment, so I decided to introduce the concept into my own designs.
Using preserved moss, I glued layers of plant life in between each of the floors, except for in between the slanted windows. I fixed the plants in a spiral pattern much like the rest of the building, tying the two together while also making it easier to distribute water top to bottom.
This is the final version of the model, fully painted and plant life included. The scaling of the building was decided based on the floor heights. I wanted the floors to all be 25 feet tall, so the scale for the model became 3/8 of an inch equals 25 feet. From there, it was just applying the ratio to the length, width, and height of the model, and the final measurements came out to be 200 feet by 200 feet by 1,250 feet.
Each of the floors are L-shaped, with 25-foot ceilings and 15,000 square feet of floor space, except for the bottom 8 floors, which are hexagonal with 30,000 square feet of space. Finally, the outdoor spaces have a square footage of 5,000 square feet.
I really loved the whole process of this because it gave me a small taste of what design is and where it comes from. Just playing around with a simple toy, I got an idea that I applied myself to carrying out and made it so much bigger than what it started as. I'm very proud of what I accomplished and look forward to learning more about the designing process that architecture entails.